Hey, Stephen. Hey, this is Stephen Hughes. Hey, this is Jason Morris, actually, and I'm on here this call with Stephen Hughes. And hey, Stephen, how are you, man?
Oh man, pretty good. Just been working. I've had two closings this week and I got one tomorrow. So just that on top of prospecting, pretty busy.
Yeah, man. Well, we were talking, and one of the things that I guess the topic for this call is going to be you just signed back up for zbuyer.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like I did it for I'd say probably a year and a half, and I actually did get a few deals out of it where I made a profit, when you look at the monthly cost versus the commissions. So I was profitable, but I got so busy with a couple other areas in my business and the market was shifting. I dropped it to just allocate other parts of my budget to other parts of my business. But things have been going so well for me. And because the market has shifted, it's a little bit easier for me now to bring it back in. I had some money to burn. And gosh, it's funny. I've been back on it for not even a week and I've already had two appointments.
No
And,
kidding. So,
yeah,
so for people who listen to this call, though, let me tell them what zbuyer is. So I've used zbuyer off and on for probably 10, 12 years. But what zbuyer is a lot of people think it's buyer leads, but it's not. zbuyer is a marketing company, and what they do is generate motivated seller leads, right?
right.
So there for a long time here, the last couple of years, man, it was, somebody could stick a sign in their front yard and have multiple offers from a for sale by owner sign this afternoon, basically. Well, with the market changing, interest rates going up and it becoming a little bit more of a buyer's market, seller's market slowing down, all of a sudden, these lead sources like zbuyer um, have a plentiful amount of good leads that are truly looking to sell their house. Um, Whereas a year ago, it just wasn't really that way. So these motivated sellers, the people that do have to sell, people that, they are they were barely hanging on when things are good. Now things are not so great for them. They're struggling a little bit, and inflation and all that stuff. They're looking for ways to get out from under what they are and try to preserve whatever equity they have before they get that 90, 120 days late. So anyway, so Stephen, this is your first week, and you already got two appointments.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it's just from the fresh leads because they do it a couple of different ways. You pay for so many leads that are just automatic, where someone fills an online form asking really for a cash offer on their home. And then after a month, you get what are called the prospecting leads, which are old seller leads and even old buyer leads. I don't pay for the buyer leads, but I get both of them, and you
Yeah.
can call on those. But yeah, it's funny in my area of Utah. I'm about an hour north of Salt Lake City. I think I've mentioned this to you before. We went from being 2 days for average days on market to 91.
Wow.
So
So big change.
that shift has really affected sellers. And it's funny though about Z Buyer, and I want to keep it on the topic of Z Buyer, but you'd be shocked at how many times they end up overlapping with a couple of other lead sources. Like they'll overlap with expireds or FISBOs or for
Yep.
rent by owners or even distressed properties. That's a big one on Z Buyer as well. So it's like if you're focused on one of those other lead sources, uh, I feel like Z Buyer is a real way to supplement those lead sources. It's its own thing, but it also again overlaps with these other areas.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I figured expireds for sure because they probably had a list with a realtor. They struggled. Maybe it was a little bit high. Maybe it was whatever. Maybe they just didn't hire the right realtor, right? Um, do the right stuff for them. Didn't have accurate description. Didn't have accurate pictures. So, so tell us what happened. So you got the new ones coming in. Now, I'll tell you this, man. For me, um, in my market in the past, the old Z buyer were gold, right? The ones that were that 30, 60, 90 days old, that nothing had happened for them. Nobody come along, bought their house, nobody done anything. They still need to sell it. They just became more motivated. But, a lot of people, dude, they got jobs, they got kids, they got only God knows what else, hobbies and all this stuff. They don't really have time to market, show, and sell a house. It's a full-time job sometimes, whether you got 5 listings or 25 listings. So when you get this walk us through what happens with these new leads. So you get it in, do you have to claim the lead or anything, or does it come to you directly?
It comes directly to me. Now, I'm in 2 counties that are semi-rural, semi-suburban. There's Weber County where I live, but I also pay for leads in Tooele County. And it's because there was no one buying leads in Tooele County. And I've done some work out there. It's on the other side of the Great Salt Lake. But in my county, there's only, with myself included, 3 other people who get these leads. And I think I know one of the people that gets them, and I know he doesn't work the leads as much as he should because he has a lot of commitments. But yeah, you immediately get an email or a text or both saying, hey, new lead in your area. And basically, when I get that, I immediately call them and say, hey, I just got a notification from one of the websites I partner with that you're looking for a cash offer for your home. Now, I'll tell you, in the past and even now, they're not going to always answer. So I always send a text. But then I actually have a pretty extensive CRM campaign that lasts for about 2 years that sends them emails and text and even
Yeah.
videos. And I add them to that immediately. Now, I just got back on it. So I imagine I'll do this, but what I do in the past is I would have a day every month. I'd call it my zbuyer day, where I would just go through and call, and I'd hand dial them, not through a dialer. I'd
Yep.
hand dial every zbuyer lead I had in my CRM to see if I could get them to answer. So it's funny, like they're not going to just immediately say, oh yeah, come on over and I'll list with you. They really want that cash offer. And I'll tell you what I've done on one appointment, and I'm going to keep doing it moving forward, is and I've done this in other parts of my business, is if they want the cash offer, I'll tell them, well, most of the time if we do that, it's an investor who's going to buy it at a discount because they're going to want to update it, change it up, and then sell it for a profit. It's a business. And they're like, oh yeah, I
Yep.
get that. And it's like, oh, okay, well, why don't me and my business partner come on by? I personally don't have the capital to just go and buy every house,
Sure.
I want
Most
to.
agents don't right now.
Yeah, it's just not what I'm doing. So you have that going on. Well, what I did with this one appointment, and I feel like there's still value in it, is I do have an investor partner who does have the capital and he wants leads. So I'm just like, hey there, man. I have an appointment tomorrow with so-and-so at 3:00. Come to the meeting with me. We walk through the house, we talk to the seller, and then it's like, well, my partner here would like to make you a cash offer. He's the investor, and then he'll make the offer. Now, this guy was like, well, I don't want to really sell it for less than it's worth. And it's like, well, then, and what's awesome is he totally has my back. He's like, well, then, yeah, you got Steven here who really the way to do it is to list it traditionally. Otherwise, you'd probably end up working with someone like me if you sold it off market. And the guy's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I just need a couple of weeks to clean some stuff up.
Yeah.
It's easy. So, I mean, that's how we do it. But the thing is, and I've done this on mobile homes, if for some reason they were like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take the cash offer. Well, the deal I have with the investor is now it depends on the deal and the margins. He'll either pay me like a buyer commission up front, or he'll fix it, flip it, and then we list it, and then I get the full 6%. It really depends on the house, right?
Yeah,
And
of course.
get out of it. But to me, that's a win-win. Now, I'll tell you that strategy. I don't know anyone who's doing it that way with zbuyer. And zbuyer is, I would say they're probably the only internet seller leads like that I know of that you can
There's very few.
yeah, that are
Now,
as buyer leads.
I tell you what, let me offer you just a suggestion. This is something that's worked for me in the past. So with zbuyer, so in years of the past, man, when the market was a little slower, it wasn't a big deal. I had 2 counties, and my smaller county was actually bigger than my larger county, right? As far as return on investment. So the way that it would kind of go is I get them on the phone. I'd go, hey, this is Jason Morris with ABC Realty. Hey, man, I seen you just came through one of our websites. Do you still want to sell your house at 123 Main Street? Or if I was leaving them a voicemail, it would basically just be, hey, my name's Jason. I just got an email. You want to sell a house at 123 Main Street, and give me a call back. you're looking for a cash offer, I could get you one over pretty quick. And I was just looking for something to create a little bit of urgency and something to get that call back, or that text back. So I'd call and text typically if I didn't get them on the phone. But if I got them on the phone, my script primarily went, well, what will you take for it? And you let them tell you a price, and you say, well, you know what? I work with a lot of investors. Typically, an investor is going to offer you a discount on the house. They're going to want a discount on the house because they're going to want to fix it up and sell it, just like what you said. And then they'd say, oh, okay. I'd say, but could you wait? If it took you 30 to 60 days to sell it, but you could get, say, another $5,000, $10,000 more than you would through the cash offer, would you be willing to do that? And of course they go, well, I can wait 30 days or I can wait 60 days if I could get $10,000 more. Say, okay, great. Well, I tell you what, and then you immediately go into setting an appointment, right? The only reason I wouldn't want to have the investor to go with me, this would be my only drawback. And maybe you have a little different relationships with investors than what I've had, but me and the investor, even if it was one of my friends, we were competing, we had competing jobs. If he didn't buy the house, then it was a waste of his time. Of course, he could get other deals from me maybe in the future, but if he didn't buy the house, it was a waste of his time. And if I didn't list the house, then, it really didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I felt like we had two different sales pitches going towards the person at once, right? And I just never had a lot of luck with that personally. So I'd want to show up to the house by myself, do a CMA, send over your pre-listing package, do a CMA. Because really at that point of setting the listing appointment, you're really just on a regular listing appointment. It just so happened it came this way, right? And do your listing, do your CMA where you got the 3 different columns. So you can put the price you want to list it at in the middle. But of course you can have a lower price and a higher price. And hopefully, sometimes you show up, you're pleasantly surprised and it's a little better than you thought. Maybe you can go with the higher end. Sometimes you're it's a little worse than you thought. You got to go with the little lower end, right?
Right.
But once you set the appointment, it doesn't matter. This has been my opinion in the real estate business. Once you set the appointment, it doesn't really matter much if it's a for sale by owner, an expired, a zbuyer, whatever it is, because really after that point, you're really having the same conversation, right? And if you've already sent them over your pre-listing package, then they already know what you're going to do to sell the house. You're just showing up to take a look at the house, confirm it is what you think it is. And then really that at that point, you're just negotiating, what price you're going to list it for and how much you're going to get paid. That's really what the conversation is. You're building a little bit of rapport and hopefully building a little bit of trust. And that's what it's going to be about, man. But man, doing what you're doing though, that first week, man, that's excellent. So let's talk about this real quick. So how many leads did you get that first week?
I'm supposed to get 15 for the whole month. It hasn't even been a full week. I literally signed up Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. So we're talking about 3 days and you already have 2 appointments.
Yeah. I've had 3
Holy
of
shit, Steven. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've had 3 of those 15 leads come in. Because it's over
so
the
those 15 leads. Now every market's a little bit different, but how much are you paying for those 2 counties?
Those 2 counties, it's $225 a month is what I'm paying for those 2 counties.
So I'm kind of slow with math today. I feel like it's Friday when we're recording this. It's the end of the day, and so what does that break down to per lead? Like
per lead, it's like
yeah.
$15 a lead, I think. Let me see real quick. Yeah, it's $15 a lead.
$15 a lead, right? Yeah. And those 2 appointments that you set, can you tell us roughly what the total gross price would be on those?
Oh yeah, about $690,000 on both those homes. So
let's say that you listed them. Let's say that, man, you got in there, they beat you up a little bit, right? And you got them listed at 2% commission on your side, the listing side. So you're looking at $12,000 gross commission.
Oh yeah,
at 2%.
Yeah, and here's the thing: if you look at 225 times 12 months, I mean, is that like $3,000 a year?
$3,000. So literally, you paid for, if you list those 2 properties and they sell, you paid for it for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a ridiculously great return on investment. And I mean, you don't get that with I I was in a little dispute with a local brokerage, which I shouldn't talk about their names, but it's a team. And I found out it's a team of 40 agents. Do you want to guess how much that team spends on Zillow leads a month? And
Oh
this
my
is
God, probably 10 grand or more.
no, Jason, this is wild. They spend $250,000 a month on Zillow leads.
Oh
This team,
my God.
I couldn't believe it.
Jesus. Yeah, see, that team isn't going to be in business as the market continues to change. They're going to get called, right? Because we're going to see every time interest rates go up, a quarter point, half a point, there's a certain amount of the buyers in the market that are just not going to be there anymore. And we saw, I can't think of the name of it. I posted it, Real Estate Agents to Really Work earlier, where they were down, I want to say 88, it's like 83% or something like that.
Oh yeah,
In buyers, I can't remember the bank, but it was one of the big banks, right? So
yeah,
that means the buyers coming through on average, 4/5 of the buyers that would normally come through Zillow for that team is not coming through Zillow now, or they're not coming through and being able to get approved, right? So
right.
literally 80% of their market share just went away that they were getting from Zillow leads. Dude, that is scary, man, at a $250,000 a month. Dude, even for like I got a couple of friends that are paying, that are personal friends of mine. They told me about the Zillow stuff. They're doing well as agents, right? But they're paying 5, 10 grand a month on Zillow.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing about it with Zillow is mostly buyer leads. So you have a couple of slow months. You have a couple of slow months where you're just getting, you know, you got these difficult transactions that take up all your time. But Zillow's still hitting your credit card checking account for whatever their bill is. And you have no way to leverage that at all the way you do sellers, dude. You could do zbuyer, right? Excuse me. You could do zbuyer, sit there, call those 15 new leads a month, plus calling the old leads a month, take 10, 15, 20 listings, right, over the next, say, 3, 6 months. You could literally be sitting in your pajamas tomorrow and all of your listings get shown. You could have 50 listings, all of them get shown tomorrow. But those Zillow buyers that are coming through, um, if you got 50 buyers, there's no way you could show them property all this same month, right?
Oh, it's true. I have.
But
Yeah, it's true.
but here's the thing too, man. With that buyer, you're dealing with, man, 5 houses, 10 houses, 15 houses, and damn, if they're a marginal buyer, I mean, we're going to see more rate hikes. I mean, they're already telling us they are going to do more rate hikes. If they're a marginal buyer today, once we see another rate hike, and once we see rates go up, um, dude, that buyer that was approved, that was on the fence, all of a sudden is not going to be approved anymore. So all that time and energy you put into them is wasted unless they can come up with more money to put down, or a better credit score, or a better job.
Oh, and I mean the news that came out today about mortgages and credit scores, you should look into that. It's not appropriate for this call, but that's going to be very interesting. But that
It's amazing. We're in amazing times right now. I tell you what, any agent that really wants to, this isn't even a comment about zbuyer here, but any agent that really wants to stay in business and be in business a year from now, 5 years from now, if you are working with buyers right now, you will not be in business a year from now. I bet the average agent that's working with only buyers, buyer heavy, won't be in business a year from now.
yep, and it's true. I
If they
wanted
are, man,
yeah.
they're going to have a hell of a time, dude. It's good. Like, if you're not changing your business and going listing heavy and learning those sales skills on how to go list property and do listing presentations, man, you're messing up. I had another word I wanted to use that's a little bit stronger than that, but you're messing up, dude. I believe that 110%.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it's and I guess just to kind of throw it back towards Z buyer and just economics. I mean, the thing that really gets me is, and this is where we kind of got a little off topic with Zillow, is the cost for these leads is ridiculously low compared to any other lead source you pay for. I mean, honestly, In my opinion, it's cheaper than a lot of the dialer companies with their leads.
Oh yeah.
And the conversion rates, I think, potentially can be better. It depends on market and all that, but I think it's a really great business. I mean, honestly, my fear with zbuyer back in the past and then even now is that other people in my market will figure it out and compete against me.
Well, you know what's funny, man, about your market? It's like this in every market. I've been in Myrtle Beach for almost 20 years, and I've seen it here. And I mean, I've worked with some extremely talented agents. Man, you're in Utah. You work with, dude, Utah, near Salt Lake City. I swear they're some of the smartest people I've ever met in the real estate business there. And pretty much, you you we're working with some of the best and some of the highest trained agents, you know, if you're working in an agent market. But even with that being said, there's not nearly as much competition as anybody thinks because most people aren't even consistent. Well, I mean, let's say if there is 3 people or 5 people in your market, or are 3 or 5 people in your market subscribing to zbuyer, honestly, man, out of those 5 people, there's probably one guy that's consistently calling them. The rest of them, you know what, they get a lead this morning, maybe they call it this afternoon, maybe they call it next week, maybe they don't call it at all. You know, one of the things that I thought was great, like training and coaching real estate agents. Agents would go, well, man, I'm using XYZ lead source, right? I'm using XYZ lead source, and man, the leads just aren't working. I go, no kidding. Well, how many of those leads are you calling? And they tell me a number, and I say, well, you know what, man, I tell you what, let me give you your log. Why don't you give me your login? Let me take a look at it to see your settings and how you got the filters and stuff set up on it. And maybe I can help you make a couple adjustments and get it fixed for you. Maybe you just got something set wrong. And I wasn't changing nothing in their program. So if I ever did that, anybody listening to this call, I'm telling you what I was doing. I was just looking to see how many leads you had actually opened. And I swear, man, every agent I did that to, if they might would have 20, 30 leads, like expireds and for sub owners, like using Redex or something like that. They might would have 20 leads in the last week. And if they called 5, even opened 5 of them, right? It was a lot. And even that guy that's calling in your market against you, Stephen, they're probably not a trained agent. They're just calling and they're just falling into it every now and then, you know? They don't really have a listing system. They don't have a pre-listing package. They don't have the tools they need or the skill set really that can take their business from listing 1 a month to listing, 4 or 5 a month, 10 a month, you know? And I know those numbers sound unrealistic today. And you can go ahead and 10 listings a month. They are more headed. It's going to be realistic as the market changes.
You're breaking up some, Jason.
Let's do that. Let's give me just a second here. But lots of times Zoom will catch everything, even though it's like breaking up. But those listing numbers, even like 5, 10 listings a month, that's realistic.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the market we're heading to, without a doubt, man. So 3 days in, $600,000 worth of listing appointments for $225 a month. What's the downside on this thing, man?
The downside on it, sorry, my phone just keeps going off. I think the downside on it is just like anything else you pay money for. I mean, if you're not going to work them, you're wasting the money because they're just sitting there. But the downside is I think that they're not going to just convert immediately. Kind of like Fizbos that expired, you're going to have to follow up with them. And I don't think just calling phone works. I really think you do need the CRM. For me, I get way more feedback and communication from leads with these automated text and emails.
Yes.
But here's the thing, and video, because I have a pretty big YouTube channel. But you can't just sit there and say, oh, I'm just going to let it drip on them and it's just a canned email thing. No, all this stuff is custom that I made. It's custom videos, custom text. It is also custom emails. And the thing is, if they respond to one of them, I will respond to them and call and text and say, and talk to them directly because they reached out to me and on that CRM. But there's agents that'll throw them in there and never respond to them, or they just, again, use the canned emails that came in for the CRM you bought. I think
Yep.
that's a big flaw as well.
And you know what, man? I'll tell you a secret about this. I learned this from personal trial and error and stuff. Those CRMs, man. Now this was a couple of years ago, so it's even more advanced now. Gmail is so damn smart with spam, right? That once that email gets, say you're using the canned email that comes with, whatever the CRM is, right? The super popular CRM. That email that's like the drip campaign that's already saved in that email has already been seen by Google probably thousands of times, right? So once that email gets marked spam so many times, it doesn't matter who you send that email to, that email will always be spam if it's going to a Gmail or Gmail back account. And most of the email servers nowadays are Gmail backed. Everybody uses Gmail for email, even if they have a custom professional, Jason Morris at jasonmorris.com sort of email,
Yeah.
Yep. And that email will always go. You have to, if you want to get through the spam filters, you have to have a custom email. Like you can't use the canned one that's already in the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, I do use the canned ones, but they're supplemented, or I've changed them.
Yes.
I don't just use those because sometimes it does go through, or people are, kind of anal or whatever you want to say, and look at like their spam and promotion tabs, because I'll see people open and read those canned ones all the time.
No kidding.
Yeah, I do, but it's not everyone. I get way more traction on the text or the videos and emails I make.
So let me ask you this: with prospecting in general right now, not necessarily just zbuyer, how many times are you saying or seeing where you're having to follow up with somebody to set an appointment? Just a guess on average.
Well, if they're serious about selling, like it's something they need to do in the next like couple months, I mean, just the first time I get them on the phone, I can get an appointment, right? But if it's something they're thinking about or it's down the road, I mean, it's going to take 6 months to a year, especially with the zbuyer leads, if not longer. When I was on zbuyer before, it's funny. One of the homes I sold was a straight up, it was a meth house, man. I mean, this place was, but I followed up with that guy for 8 months. And then he finally wanted me to come out and look at it.
Wow.
I had an investor with another agent, and the way that deal worked, I still got paid, but I wish that I had done it differently. But either way, yeah. But it took me 8 months on that one, for example. So I'd say 6 to 12 months, and it really just depends because, man, it's just people in general are very indecisive. You have to help educate and guide them, but sometimes they have life circumstances, or they're like, I'm not going to move in the winter, or I'm not going to move till my kid is done with the school year because it's a pain in the butt. And, I can relate to that. I understand what they're going through. I wouldn't want to move in the middle of February when we have 3 feet of snow, which happened to us.
Of course. So how often would you say you're following up with people? Would you say you're following up with them once a week, twice a week? Are you following up with them once a month?
Oh, if you're including the CRM, it could be once or twice a week. Now, if it's me physically calling on the phone, it's probably once a month. It's just the phone calls, and I think I might have a different opinion than most people. It's unless it's a FSBO, you can get away with it because they're actively selling the house, and it's like posted and all this stuff. But any other lead source, I mean, if you're calling them really more than twice a month, you are going to piss them off, in my opinion. And I don't, honestly, I have 12 active listings right now, and I'm in appointments and such. I can't sit there and call 300 people once or twice a week.
Of course.
I mean,
how about the people? let's break it down like this. Okay. The guy that's for sale by owner out there, and he goes, yeah, man, we want, you say, hey, Steven, Jason Morris here. How soon do you want to sell the house? Right? Get that question in the script. How soon do you want to sell the house? And they say, well, we'd like to sell it as soon as possible.
Right.
How much are you following up with him?
Oh, dude, my FISBO stuff is really aggressive
Yes.
because, well, especially COVID was like this, but even now, I mean, this, I mean, I'm following up almost every day with
Yep.
FISBOs between emails, text, and then phone calls. Now I sometimes can get really behind on calling them. And I don't really do previews anymore, like because it seems like they convert more if I just follow up with them on the phone or through the text and email. But oh gosh, man, my CRM campaign mixed with my phone calls, it's once or more a day for 3 months. And then it's just like a slower follow up for another 9 months after that.
Man, so I'll tell you this, man. One of the things that I see agents do, and I've seen them do this literally the entire time I've been in the real estate business. I'm guilty of it myself, though. It didn't just them. So, like, what I'd what they do is they have a great call with a for sale owner, right? Or see buyer lead or whatever it is. They have this great call with them. The person says, they talk to them on Monday. The person says, yeah, man, I want to sell my house quick as possible. Um, and they say, give me a call back. Give me a call back in a couple of weeks. Well, the average agent out there might not even call them back, but the average agent puts them in the calendar 2 weeks from now. The problem I see with that is if they're an active for sale owner, man,
They've already
they want
hired.
other agents calling them too, right?
Mhm.
And so I always feel like whenever somebody's told me like, hey, call me back in 2 weeks, call me back in 2 weeks and let's see what we can do. I need to look for a reason to call them back tomorrow, right? And I need to have as many conversations as I can between that initial one and us actually meeting, because what I don't want to happen is, okay, I've told them one thing, they seem like they like me, it's great conversation, right? Number one, I don't want them to forget who I am because other agents are going to be calling them. So I don't want them to have to look for my number really. Um, okay. And then I don't want another agent to get in the middle of our conversation. And, I'm telling them, hey, A, B, and C. And Steven over here is telling them, well, I don't know about A, but, B and C and D is what I do, Mr. Seller. So I don't want another agent influencing the conversation I've had with the seller. And I don't want another agent getting in the middle of mine and the seller's conversation, right? So as long as you can follow up with useful information. Now, if you're calling them and going, hey, Stephen, this is Jason Morris. We talked yesterday. Hey, man, you ready to list today? And you go, well, no, Jason, I'm not. And then that was Tuesday. You call them back Wednesday and go, hey, Stephen, what about, it's nice and sunny outside today. What about today? Yeah, I believe you're going to piss them off. But I think that if you look for a reason to call them, right, a valid reason, we'll say maybe something's went active in their neighborhood, something's went pending in their neighborhood, something actually closed in their neighborhood. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in their neighborhood of 100 homes. Maybe it's a home that's next neighborhood over that's comparable. You know what I mean? Or
Well,
maybe maybe you're following up with them to tell them some of this mortgage news that just came out. Hey, and I think that, and that's something too, I think that we need to do is we need to follow the news, and we're following up with our sellers, have a sense of urgency, and basically be like, hey, Stephen, Jason Morris here. Hey, man, I know we talked yesterday, but I don't know if you've seen the news stuff that came out today. Man, it looks like rates are going to go up again. It looks like this is going to happen with FICO scores. It looks like this Bank of America just said this. And man, my concern is the higher rates go up, the more downward pressure there is going to be on prices. And right now, if we put your house on the market for 200,000, it's the best price one in the neighborhood. If we wait 30 days from now, prices aren't going up anymore. I'm concerned that we might not be able to get, might not be able to get that same amount, or there be a house listed for less money. And that's going to be scary, dude, because I've seen that before, where you'd list a house on Monday for $150,000, then Friday you're getting showings and stuff, or all of a sudden you start getting calls like crazy at 150. You pull up MLS and the bank's listed one down the street for 120. That's a nicer house, you know? And that's where our market's going to be 6 months from now, 12 months from now. I promise you.
Oh, I see it just with normal sellers. I was seeing it even a year ago in certain parts of the state. Not even banks, but yeah, it's a real thing. And yeah, it's funny you talk about the FISBO following up and giving them something of value. See, my CRM campaign, it's funny, I have these texts and emails that all go back to, I have a I think it's like 15 video play FISBO playlist. It's like help for Utah for sell by owners on my YouTube channel. And
Yeah.
basically it's stuff like, hey, I saw you posted just on KSL, but you also put it on Craigslist because Craigslist is not big out here, but people from out of state don't know that. So they'll still look on
Yep.
Craigslist. Like, go ahead and put it on Craigslist, put it on Facebook Marketplace. Like, and so many people don't have a sign. So I send them a thing like, hey, I know a company that'll put up a really nice for sale by owner sign that makes it look like you're a realtor and have a realtor. So people driving by will take it more seriously. It's all crap like that. And
Oh, yeah.
it's funny. I got a land listing, which I'm under contract for now with an unrepresented buyer, and he told me, but I listed it back in the fall, and it just now got a buyer. No, the end of the summer last year, excuse me, because it's a piece of land. And he said, "Yeah, I want to hire you because you just have so many places that you can advertise a home, and I didn't even know anyone could do that. I mean, he doesn't know about MLS, nothing. But I was just showing him all this stuff that he could do, and why
Oh,
should
yeah, man.
I just hire you to do it, man? Because it looks like you're the expert. I mean, yeah, it's that whole perceived value thing.
That's one of the funny things out there is that a lot of perceived value is enormous, and a lot of people don't realize, and even agents don't realize how much our MLS does for us automatically, right? As far as marketing a home, I mean, you upload if you got good pictures and a good description. I mean, this thing gets uploaded to every website that has a property search that includes your market,
Yeah.
and there's no way a for sale by owner can have the same reach. And I'll tell you a funny story about Craigslist and Marketplace in a second, but there's no way a for sale by owner can have that same reach that MLS can have, right? Just looking at the power of syndication with MLS. And then if you don't look at, you look at that alone, but then you look at the power of, if you're a qualified.
Hey, Jason, I think I lost you. Jason, you there? It says you're muted. Jason, it says you're muted.
They are working with real estate agent, if not multiple real estate agents.
Hey, you were just muted for all of that, Jason. It was muted and then it got unmuted.
Oh, I don't know what happened there, but yeah, but agents and a lot of people with for sale owners don't realize that are don't realize the power of syndication with MLS, and the fact that most qualified buyers are working with an agent, or they're working with multiple agents. They're thinking Steven can show them something different than somebody else.
Oh man, that is such a thing. Because, well, it's funny. I sometimes in listings, I'll get someone to call me, and they're like, "Yeah, I want to know if this house is still available." And I was like, "Well, are you a buyer? Are you an agent?" "Oh, I'm a buyer." Blah 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 blah. But I have an agent. I'm like, "Well, why isn't your agent calling me?" "Oh, well, they didn't find this home for me. I did." I'm like, "Well, do you still want to work with that agent?" "Well, yeah." I was like, "Well, then have him call me. Otherwise, you need to sign a contract with me."
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I don't want to step on like the whole, agency toes and stuff. And even if they don't have signed agency, some agents will get really mad and fight. But I have
Oh
to be
yeah, they showed them two houses and they think that's their buyer.
right.
But man, I tell you what, in closing here on zbuyer, man, so what would you say, like, if you're an agent out there, you're looking for a lead source, you're thinking about zbuyer based on this call and stuff, what would you recommend him to get? Would you recommend him to get all the counties available? Would you What would be your advice to them?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, I mean, they really need to do something that will fit in their budget. They don't, I mean, you could buy every county, say in Utah, but I'm not going to spend $2,000 a month on zbuyer.
Of course.
Um, I think you start with the counties that are near you. And honestly, you should start in counties that don't have as much competition. I think if they're more suburban or rural, they tend to be easier to work with, at least in my experience. Uh,
Yes.
and when you go to sign up for zbuyer, I asked them, I don't see why they wouldn't do this for anyone else. I'd sit there and ask, like, well, how many other people are buying leads in this county? And they'll
Oh
tell you
yeah.
zero, or like for Tooele County, it's zero. I'm the only person out there getting those leads. But then in Weber, where I'm at, it's three people, including myself. So I think if you can get a county that doesn't have any competition, that's even better.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I've always, you know what is kind of funny? I think that agents were kind of stuck up a little bit. Everybody wants to sell the big, pretty houses, but to be honest with you, people buy houses in rural areas too, and people buy houses that just because it isn't mine and your dream doesn't mean it isn't somebody else's. You know what I mean? So, man, I appreciate you doing this call with me today. And man, if somebody's out there they want to work with Steven, or they've got a buyer they want to refer to Steven, a seller they want to refer to Steven, how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, I mean, the best way is to go to my YouTube channel. It's just Stephen Hughes Hardship Real Estate Pro. You can go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and my information's all there.
Cool, man.
Email.
Cool. I
It's the
appreciate.
easiest
I
thing to do.
appreciate.
Hello.